What's here? Brakes. There's the brakes.
This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
I'd like to give you a warm welcome back to This Guy's Garage. This week we have a brake kit that just came in today, ordered from Amazon, and I usually look to buy the stuff local, but this kit was $100 cheaper than I could buy the parts for wholesale. So, and they're slotted rotors. So let's have a look at them and see what we got. Now these brakes are for a 1999 Mustang. They're $60 to the door in Canadian pesos. So let's see what we got. So first things first. Jesus, they're heavy. It seems to be well machined. The bolts here are chamfered. I thought they were drilled and slotted, but apparently they're just drilled rotors. So for what I paid for them, I have no complaints. They look a fair bit better than the OE ones are replaced. All right, I think this might be a rear. Let's open that up, and it is. Brakes are in the package, and this is a rear rotor. And again, you can see they're slotted, or not slotted, but they're drilled. And heat is a big thing, so any heat you can dissipate at all is a good thing, because the last time I had this car at the track, it went 127 miles an hour in the quarter mile, and the brakes were soft. They were definitely a lot of brake fade at 127 mile an hour. But the last one. And for brake pads, no other hardware included. Let's see, nope. All right, first impressions look pretty decent. Let's put them on. Find out this wheel off. Seeing as it was only sitting there. So right away here, I'm going to take out these two bolts that are holding the caliper bracket on. So as I'm putting these brakes on, one thing that's ticking me off is I'm having to reuse my old hardware. I know they're cheap, but you'd like to see new hardware when you're putting on complete newest brake assembly. So I don't know, but for the price, do I have any right to complain? I don't know. That's up to you. What do you think? So after greasing up my sliders here, time to put on the caliper. So we have here is wherever brake calipers. Why do I have this? Well, my calipers see solid. Open up this box, the best weight box part you can buy. Probably not. Comes with new hardware, new banjo bolt. Ooh, thicker ones too. And comes complete with the bracket. So let's take it apart, put it on, and get the show on the road. They're in there tight. All right. All right, put the bracket on. And the good thing about these is, well, comes with reconditioned brackets. They were cheap enough. I paid $75 for them. New banjo bolt and fittings. All right, let's get started. Let's get this show on the road. So when you're installing this anti-rattler, the large sides, or the intruding side, goes in there like that, clips in. Bob's your uncle. All right, Bob was my uncle. All right, let's get this back off and put it in for the core charge. So we'll put in the sliders. This is all new, so this will work really nice. And let's turn that around. Get this in. These calipers will bolt up on either side. But what you want to make sure is, and I'll show you here in a second when I put the caliper on. So now that we got the bracket started, we can tighten it up. So now that it's all back together, what I was wanting to say is, when you're doing brakes and if you take too much apart and you don't know where stuff goes back together, the major thing that you gotta look out for is that your bleeder is at the top, because these brackets will bolt on either side, but if you bolt this on the other side, it's going to put your bleeder at the bottom, and you'll never get your brakes back because you can't bleed from the bottom because air rises to the top. So anyways, so let's get this tightened down, and hope that tip helps you out if you're a first time brake novice. Now let's tighten our bracket on. All right, now let's bolt our caliper on, get the flex hose changed over, and we'll be good to go. Alright, so that's driver's side front brake assembly complete. All I have to do is change the flex hose over to the new caliper. Alright, let's get that. So now we're going to remove the banjo bolt. So take this off. We're going to lose a little bit of brake fluid, but the brake's going to be bled anyways. Alright, washers, and make sure you have the thick washers when you're doing these, because some suppliers will give you the cheap thin ones and they will cause you nothing but headache. Make sure that that's lined up. You can see in here, prove to be lined up. If I open up this bleeder, a lot of the air will come out of this naturally. And when you're done, clean everything off. Let's move on to the back brakes. And you can see I have the bleeder open here, and the fluid's actually starting to come up, so that'll make my job easier when I go to bleed. So I'm going to buddy bleed these, which means I'm going to get somebody to pump the brakes and hold them while I bleed them, but I don't have a buddy right now, so I'm just going to tighten this up. I'll bleed the mouth camera, because unless you want a video on bleeding brakes, you can let me know that in the comments. And here's our back brakes. They're also rusty from sitting and hard braking, because as I said earlier, I had this thing stopping at 127 mile an hour, so I boil these brakes pretty good, so it's time for a new set. Alright, let's get it apart. So next we're going to be doing the rear brakes. That's a little different because you have your emergency brake attached to it, so let's get it off. That's it. Alright. Normally you'd put pressure on these to get the calipers back, but I'm just putting new calipers on it. Alright. This is probably the worst part of this job, because you're going to have to move over the emergency brake cable. Let's get this bracket off. Get everything set up to change. Back caliper. Just see if it was seized the same as the front, and man, they don't want to move. So I'm glad I got all four of them. Actually, I should say I'm glad the wife picked up all four of them, because I was just going to do the front.
It has to be sturdy.
Definitely has to be sturdy, little buddy.
If it's not sturdy, it will just fall in, and the project will be ruined.
So the project, we don't want the project to get ruined.
We want it to be on the road. That's what we want.
All right.
Our next project car is the motorhome. Our next project car is the motorhome.
So we got our bracket bolts started. We'll tighten them up and get everything transferred over. So you have to move the emergency brake around. I tapped it around with a hammer, and I'll be able to get it in the bracket now. So now that we have the emergency brake cable in place, we can put the caliper on. Take a screwdriver, push down on that lock, and push the rotor in, or the brake pad in. Just 1 second. In just like so. There you go. So put your sliders on. So as you can see here, you just need to get your tab for the slider underneath the bracket. And they're in, they're tight, no rattles, no hits, no errors. Now I can put my caliper on. So when you're putting the inner rattler clip on it, it's important to note that it tucks to the outside of the caliper. Get your bolt started. Now there's a flat spot on the slider that'll keep your slider from turning, and it's got to sit inside of there. So make sure that that's lined up, or you'll bend up your slider brackets up. And turn your slider on the bottom, and we'll roll the caliper in and put the bolt in it. So you can see here the hardware is all lined up. Tighten them down, hook up the flex holes. Alright, so now let's put in the new banjo bolt and hook up the flex hose. Alright, so you can see new washers in behind, new washers on both sides. That's where your seal comes from. You got to make sure that this tit here is lined up with your caliper, because that's what keeps the flex line straight. Alright. Now this banjo bolt has a hole in it, so it's not strong, so make sure that when you tighten this up, you don't over tighten it. You gotta get it tight enough that it's gonna crimp them O-rings. Alright. Open up the bleeder here. And remember, and this caliper is marked for left and right, because the caliper will go on the other side, but your bleeder will be on the bottom, so that'll make it tough to bleed because the air goes to the top. So I'm going to open this up, let the fluid run through, and as soon as I get somebody to come around, I'll bleed the brakes. And we'll clean up these rotors. I guess for a cap off, the hardest part of this job is going to be getting the emergency brake hooked in. So, you know, visually inspect your brake lines for cracks, and you should be good to go. This is fairly straightforward and simple. Them's the brakes. So thanks again for stopping by this guy's garage. You can hit the subscribe button right here, and you can watch another video right over here. And really appreciate it. So until the next time, this guy. Ordering through our Amazon links helps fund projects just like this. Thanks for your support.
This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.